Hello, everyone, and welcome to my enclosure. Today, unfortunately, we are talking about a topic that is not very fun. It is not the first video I thought I would be making on this channel, but with a lot of hemming and hawing and perfectionism, this ended up being the thing that sparked me that I just had to talk about, and that was Nancy Mace screaming slurs in the middle of the US 8 hearing. Yay! Not yay. Not yay. Not yay. I will introduce myself, and then we will get into a little bit of the history on this topic of trans rights, the rise of fascism, who gets targeted and when, and why you are not safe just because I am being attacked. Uh, you are not safe simply because they're coming after me right now. They will just come after you next. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. Okay, so first off, a tiny bit about me, just so you're not watching a total stranger. I mean, you are, but a little bit about me. You can call me JoJo, and I am going to be talking about on this channel politics, social media, television and film, pop culture, whatever I feel like, honestly. And today it's politics. So let's honestly just get right into it. It sucks, so let's just do it. Trigger warning for obviously trans persecution, Nazi rhetoric, concentration camps. We are gonna start with talking about Magnus Hirschfeld. We'll get into the wild slurs in a bit, but bear with me. This is important stuff. So I'm just gonna read this short excerpt here from CachetteOnline.org. Magnus Hirschfeld was a Jewish German doctor and sexology expert in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Although he never publicly declared his sexuality, his relationship with his partners Carl Gies and later Li Shui Tong were an open secret. Hirschfeld was a trailblazer in many ways. He started the Scientific Humanitarian Committee in 1896, which lobbied for the repeal of German penal code that criminalized homosexuality. Perhaps his most important accomplishment was founding and running the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft, the Institute of Sexual Research. The institute was a beacon of scientific research, sexual education, gender affirming medical treatment, and LGBTQ community throughout Europe and beyond. Hirschfeld brought together doctors who pioneered the first gender affirming medical interventions, including surgery and hormone therapy. Trans people came from all over to access this life saving treatment and be able to live as their authentic selves. With tragic irony, the Nazi Party formed the same year the Institute opened. As an outspoken liberal Jewish gay person, Hirschfeld and his work were frequently targeted. Just months after Hitler became chancellor, 14 years after the Institute opened, Sturmabteilung, sorry, I'm not, the Nazis' paramilitary wing sacked the Institute. 4 days later, every volume from the immense Institute library publicly burned in what would become the most well-known Nazi book burning, although few know it now as the Institute library being burned. It is difficult to comprehend the magnitude of the loss of the Institute and its archives. It is impossible not to think about what kind of world we might be living in today if that research had survived and continued. It is impossible not to think of all the queer and trans people who have died because they could not access the care they needed or because of the belief that who they are is wrong and unnatural. And yet we are still here, we are still fighting. We have rebuilt our communities and our stores of knowledge. We may have been delayed but never stopped. In the words of Magnus Hirschfeld, through science to justice. This was written by C. Silverman Gattin, queer, trans, disabled Jewish public health researcher in New Jersey. Big props and shout out to them. So that is some history, and then we get to the homosexual victims of Nazi persecution, a little bit more history. The main thing I wanted to touch on here is that the paragraph 175 laws that prohibit homosexuality. Enforcement was kind of sporadic, but then they, started arresting a lot of homosexuals, around 90,000 people, about 15,000 of which ended up in concentration camps. And when the war ended, unfortunately, homosexuals, gay people in concentration camps were not acknowledged or compensated as victims of Nazi persecution. Paragraph 175 remained in effect until 1969, and many gay men lived in fear of arrest or imprisonment. Many remained in prison for years after. They had to serve out their terms, regardless of time spent in concentration camps. So this is specifically the Nazi history of fascism, the German fascist party, because fascism is unique to the country in which it presents every time. That's why Italian fascism is different, and now American fascism is different. We have MAGA fascism, which is just the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. But here we are. So, oh my god, this sucks. Um, really dark stuff. Yeah. So with that history, that we know, from Nazi Germany, and with a lot of the parallels that we are seeing today, even, some very blatant and obvious ones, like the Sieg Heil from Elon Musk at the inauguration. But many other signs of fascism over the past decade, over the past 50 years, over the past entire history of our country. Whichever one you want to pick, whatever category you fall into, seeing the rise of fascism is important. So now we're here in 2025, and Donald Trump is the president again, and his cabinet and Congress are just chomping at the bit to roll back queer rights, roll back rights of disabled people, to cut funding to important programs, to stunt research, so on and so forth. We're going to talk just a tiny bit about a couple of those things. Here we have the CDC removing HIV content following Trump's DEI policies.
Tonight, NBC News has obtained a memo ordering that all references to, quote, gender ideology be removed across the federal government. The memo orders agencies to do things like take down all public websites and social media accounts that promote, quote unquote, promote gender ideology, and turn off Microsoft Outlook features that prompt staff to write out their pronouns. It also orders an end to any employee resource groups that promote gender ideology. This happening right after the CDC scrubbed a bunch of HIV-related content from its website as part of President Trump's efforts to roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives across the federal government. The agency started taking down all content related to gender identity today. That is according to one government staffer, as well as HIV-related pages. Those were apparently part of that scrub. Remember, earlier this week, the Trump administration started telling organizations in other countries to stop giving out HIV drugs that were bought with U.S. aid, even if they'd already received the medications, and those medications are there sitting in local clinics.
Okay, editing Jonah right here. I just want to say, while we're getting into this, that the cruelty is the point.
Yeah, so as of this afternoon, several CDC pages have disappeared as officials move to rush to meet today's deadline. So key resources for healthcare providers are gone. Information about gay and bisexual men and transgender people are gone. Pages on racial disparities in HIV are gone. Resources on risk behaviors for youth are gone. And that's just some of the pages that have disappeared. There are many more that we're finding right now. One government staffer I spoke with called the process demoralizing. They said the officials or employees were initially unsure how to implement this new policy, but as the deadline loomed, they were left with no choice but to take down almost everything. And so, according to them, this new policy has effectively shut down the CDC's ability to combat HIV in the very groups most impacted by this virus. And right now, they have no idea if or when these pages will be restored.
And in terms of what you've heard from experts, how have they said this this will impact AIDS care, particularly when it comes to minority communities.
Yeah, so experts are deeply concerned about this change. The CDC's HIV prevention work dates back to the early 1980s. Experts warned that the moves by the Trump administration could essentially dismantle the CDC's efforts to prevent HIV because addressing disparities based on race and sex and gender identity are fundamental to their work. So HIV has long disproportionately impacted minority groups, including Black and Latino people, gay and bisexual men, and transgender people. And the CDC plays a crucial role in tracking HIV infections, nationwide providing millions of grants to state and local health departments, and helping lead on-the-ground efforts to combat the virus. So one staffer I spoke with kind of put it plainly that, like, how are we going to be able to talk about the risk if we can't acknowledge it? And so this is something that we'll have to follow very closely.
All right, Berkeley Lovelace, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
So, some more parallels that we're seeing, obviously, in the age of, everything being digital, these pages being taken down, the internet being scrubbed of content, and as well as some of the executive orders that have been put through, like that there are only two genders, except in the way that it's written, there's only one gender, and everyone is technically female, because at conception, gonads are all the same. Okay, don't quote me on the specific scientific terminology. I am not a scientist. I am just some guy. But I know at the very least that that's how that works. You know, you don't have to be a scientist to know that. If you took high school biology, hopefully you know that. But this is where we're at. We get to the next thing, which was the list of forbidden words in like research and just anything, I guess. Banned words at the National Science Foundation. So I'm gonna very quickly go through this as well. You see San Diego scientists say they're still in stop and start chaos despite a recent pullback on federal funding freeze. Their work is now at risk if it contains language deemed problematic by the White House, including the word women. In his first week, Donald Trump issued executive orders rolling back a lot of DEI. List of banned words includes women, disability, bias, status, trauma, Black, Hispanic communities, as well as socioeconomic, ethnicity, and systemic. UC San Diego public health scientist Rebecca Fielding Miller called the list Orwellian and said it will hamper crucial research. If I can't say the word women, I can't tell you that an abortion ban is going to hurt women. If I can't say race and ethnicity, I can't tell you that Hispanic communities are experiencing this and that, or there's less vaccination happening in Black or African American communities. She added, ultimately, the effect of removing these words will also be so restrictive that researchers will leave or shift focus. She also quipped, I guess a word that's not on here is men, and I guess a word that I don't see on here is white, so I guess we'll see what's going on with white men and what they need. Thank you, Fielding Miller. Natasha Martin, a doctor, professor of infectious disease and global public health at UC San Diego, said banning words deprives scientists of the ability to describe the world accurately. The terms on these lists are essential scientific terms, and they are crucial for both clinical care and public health. Martin said this is not a political issue. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. I agree. Her own upcoming paper on the effects of fentanyl and HIV and hepatitis C epidemics has been put on hold by the CDC because it contains the word gender. You know, the fentanyl crisis, the opioid epidemic that they claim to care a lot about, and like stopping fentanyl from getting into our communities and stuff, even though it's mostly Americans that bring it across the border. It's okay, different topic. Let's finish this. While the Trump administration reversed its pause on federal grants last week, UCSD still lost $35 million USAID global research grant on reproductive health and nutrition. Other federal money to the university is also in jeopardy. UC San Diego receives about $1 billion annually from the federal government. As uncertainty and anxiety intensify within the university's scientific community, UC San Diego infectious disease researcher Dr. Davey Smith said he'd like to see more advocacy from campus leadership and congressional representatives. It would be nice if we had some support, Smith said. We would love our leaders to say we love all of our researchers. We think they deserve to be here. We don't believe what they're saying about you. A request for comment to the university chancellor's office went unanswered. Congressman Scott Peters, representative, told KPBS he was in transit and would not be available for comment until next week. UC San Diego is located in his district, so that's kind of where we're at. Okay, so obviously all of that is very bad. It is normal to be fearful of all of this. Just a reminder, I certainly am as a member of the queer community. I am protected by my skin color up to a point, but I know that may not protect me forever. I know that at some point, even though I do have my legal name change and whatever else in terms of paperwork, that this may be something that affects my life in such a significant way that I have to upend everything and just run. Fleeing is a potential reality here. I am so lucky that I have the privilege to do that and think about that as an option in the first place. I have my passport. It's not being detained, from me, but I can't, without at least reasonable fear, visit other countries now without the risk of my passport being confiscated and held, even though all matching name and gender marker. If they look at me and think that I don't look right, I don't know. It's even though I have all of the, matching documentation, I don't have a matching body. My body is now at odds with all of my documentation. And so, here we are. And now we have Nancy Mace. Okay, main event, we're about here. Now we have Nancy Mace, Republican Congresswoman from South Carolina, hurling slurs on the House floor. There's a tweet that was since deleted, but I will end up throwing it on the screen because I'm pretty sure I screenshotted it because I figured it might be deleted. Double check here. I did screenshot it. I did screenshot it. I will throw it up on screen while I'm editing. But that she we also have the video of her off of C-SPAN, doing this, so I don't know why she thought that her deleting a tweet, doubling down, would, change anything, but this is why we're all here, right? To laugh at this clown. Trigger warning, the T-slur, a bunch.
She was asking witnesses about the use of USAID's funding.
USAID awarded $2 million to strengthen trans-led organizations to deliver gender-affirming health care in Guatemala. So to each of you this morning, does this advance the interests of American citizens paying for trannies in Guatemala to the tune of $2 million? Yes or no? Governor?
Representative Gerald Connolly, the top Democrat on the panel, asked House Oversight Chair James Comer to weigh in on Mace's phrasing.
The gentlelady has used a phrase that is considered a slur in the LGBTQ community and the transgender community. And let me please finish without interruption. And
Tranny. I don't really care. You want penises in women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Let
disgusting.
the gentleman state his parliamentary inquiry.
to me, a slur is a slur, and here in the committee, a level of decorum requires us to try consciously to avoid slurs. You just heard the gentlelady actually actively, robustly repeat it, and I would just ask the chairman that she be counseled that we ought not to be engaged. We can have debate and policy discussion without offending human beings who are our fellow citizens. And so I would ask, as a parliamentary inquiry, whether the use of that phrase is not, in fact, a violation of the decorum rules.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to be counseled by a man over men and women's spaces or men who have mental health issues dressing as women. I'm not being counseled by some guy.
My inquiry is to the
Right.
chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Order. The inquiry is about decorum. Decorum is at the discretion of the chair.
That's
I will be
mansplaining,
honest,
Mr. Chairman.
with the ranking member. I'm not up to date on my politically correct LGBTQ terminology. We'll look into that and get back with you on that. I don't know what's offensive and what's
All right. I actually hadn't seen the second half of that video. I had it cut like right after she was like, "I don't care," or whatever, after yelling it like 3 more times. The second half actually makes it more interesting. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit. First off, yeah, censure, reprimand, something, because yeah, decorum, absolutely against the rules of decorum. Can you imagine any Congress member yelling any other slur in Congress at a hearing 4 times after being asked not to, very politely and very meekly? I mean, honestly, Connolly did the bare minimum. He was like, it's a slur to the community. No, it's a slur to everyone. Like, it's used against us, but it's a slur for everyone. It counts as a slur no matter who says it, like, unless we are reclaiming it. In fact, the only time it's not a slur is if it's used within the community. So there's that. But also, he was trying. Comer, being the asshole that he is, saying he is not up to date on his politically correct language while barely holding back laughter is really something that I had also not seen. And then Nancy Mace deciding that she's gonna use sexism as a shield because, no class. She's an absolute clown. Being like, I am not going to let some guy lecture me on, according to her, trans women, so just women. But she's not gonna take a man's opinion on that. First of all, you're in Congress. Look around you. It's all old men, like old white men for the most part. Like you're not gonna let them. Okay, sure, whatever. Nancy, you say whatever the hell you want, girl. Obviously, you are just a clown, fucking clown, absolute fucking clown, who is, I guess, at least like stealth bisexual or has had kissing spats or whatever, has kissed women, has enjoyed kissing women, and was somewhat vocally pro LGBTQ up until 2023, I think. Now completely shift her focus to pander to the current administration and to jump on the bandwagon of throwing trans people under it. The bandwagon. The trans people, we go under the bandwagon. They're throwing us under it. The bus. The bandwagon. Yeah. And I don't think anything is going to happen to her because of this, which is another really scary thing. I don't think she's going to get any kind of reprimand, unfortunately. I don't think anyone is going to protect trans people. The Democratic Party has few and far between who talk about us and who stand up for us. And while I do really appreciate them, they are still the Democratic Party, and they have failed. The Democratic Party has failed because now we have full-on fascism and this attempted coup by Elon Musk. We have the Musk-Teal presidency, and that is in no small part because of the Democratic Party's failing. And I absolutely recognize that, and I'm going to talk about it more on this channel. Absolutely. But right now, the Republican Party is actively attacking trans people. And we need you, if you are not trans, to do something about it. Do anything about it. Stand up for us. Talk to your friends and family members. Just be an ally. The word ally exists as a tangent to the community for a reason. And we especially need like cishet white guys to be screaming about this because it is shown time and time again that those are the voices that are listened to the most. So I don't really know what to do about this going forward. I don't really know how to handle this other than to continue talking about it and try to build up community and raise awareness and support others as best as I can. And so that's where I'm at. I am outraged and I want us all to be outraged, and I want us all to use that outrage to foster change. As hard as that may seem right now, as hopeless as it may seem, that is what we really, really need. And they want us to be afraid, and they want us to be hopeless. And I am not faulting you for being afraid. I am afraid. I am so afraid, in fact, but I am still making this video. I am speaking up for my rights, for the rights of people in my community, for the rights of other marginalized community. And I will not stop doing that. You cannot force me into silence. You cannot make me afraid to speak. And I will also be making more fun videos on this channel, talking about like Bob's Burgers or BoJack Horseman or like anime. So video games like The Sims, Stardew Valley, just saying. So like if that is something that you would be interested in aside from the politics, and the sad and unfortunate reality that we are all living in, especially us Americans, North Americans. So feel free to like and subscribe if you want to hear me talk about any of those things in the future, and more about this and other things in the political sphere. If you have made it this far, I really, really appreciate it. This is the start to hopefully a long journey, and I want you all to witness me going through it and be with me on the journey. So if that is something that you are interested in, I would love to have you. All of my socials and everything are also linked below. Would love to have you there. Thanks for watching, and you will see me in the next one.